What's up, everyone? Thralls of Metal back again. I'm Shredlord.
Necrotic Nick.
And we are here to bring you an album review. This time, Bewitcher, Cursed Be Thy Kingdom.
So this is yet another one that came out on the 16th of April this year, which this has been a busy day, a lot of releases, not just Cannibal Corpse, but man, was that Cannibal Corpse kick-ass or what? So this band formed in 2013 in Portland, Oregon, and this is their third full-length, though this is their debut on Century Media Records. They were on Shadow Kingdom Records for a while. I have their first two releases. I was already a fan of this band, and when I heard they were making a bigger splash on a bigger label, I was excited to hear that. Now, these guys play a style of music that is really kind of a blend of a lot of different things. We have black metal, classic heavy metal, and like speed metal slash almost thrash metal. And it really kind of comes together in this really cool cocktail of insanely catchy riffs, fun songwriting. This is just a fun listen.
This is a delicious, delicious cocktail that I will drink multiple times. This is a very fun listen, and any fans of like Motorhead, Tribulation, stuff like that,
yeah,
this is definitely an album for you guys.
So once you get past the intro, which I have to say is really cool because it's musical, but it is very different than anything else you'll hear on the album. Ash is kind of like a grim western.
Yeah. Wanted Dead or Alive by Bon Jovi, but way more metal.
It's like Clint Eastwood chomping a cigar and wearing the poncho and threatening people and squinting. And then you just erupt into Death Returns with an ellipses in the end, which I never thought he left, but apparently he did, and came back, and right into like Killers level riffing. The melodies are intact.
Yes.
My God, dude, these guys apparently just studied, and everything that made Iron Maiden and Judas Priest wonderful, they were like, yeah, we can do that.
We can do that too. And they did it really, really well. The old school Iron Maiden vibe right away got me super excited, and I think that's what set the pace for me. But there's a lot of moments on here that shine old school, like Nick was saying earlier, Judas Priest. You know, their songs, the very next song is one of my favorites, Satanic Magic Attack.
I love that title.
It has an old Judas Priest feel to it, and also what's very nostalgic about this album is the sounds that they choose.
Yes.
It is very 70s.
Late 80s, like between like 79 and 81. I think that is just kind of where it seems to fit. It has a very like just organic sound. It has just that warm kind of crunchy tone, that early metal tone before we really knew what to call it.
It's a lot of Gibson Les Paul or Gibson through a Marshall JCM 800. Classic, salt and pepper, baby.
And I mean, you can do wonders with that tone already, but these guys know how to bring riffs and just a non-stop gauntlet of riffs. Every song is just pretty much hook after hook, and you know, for someone that's nostalgic as hell like us, I mean, I literally watched his ears prick up as soon as he heard like the first 80s licks in there. I was like, ooh,
okay.
I was like, yeah, no, this was right in Shred's wheelhouse.
Color me fancied.
It really kind of reminded me of the first time I jammed Killers, which is such a sacred album to me. And there's really like an interesting balance of different kinds of songs. Of course, you have your up-tempo thrashers, Cursed Be Thy Kingdom, their title track, and Metal Burner, which is an absurdly 80s title. These just scream like kind of that, early metal, like kind of speed metal sound, like lots of like kind of kill 'em all sort of thrashiness to it. It was before, I guess, like, thrash was still kind of up and coming. We're still using a lot of that sort of D-beat gallop because it had all that punk to it. But yeah, like energy throughout. But then you have like songs that are way more dynamic.
And maybe the most dynamic, definitely one of the most dynamic songs, Valley of the Ravens. This song is an epic masterpiece. Very good opening fucking riff, very descriptive. But really, man, it's like sometimes, what do you even want to say? I didn't even care for the description as much as I just wanted to listen to it because it was so interesting. In the middle, it has this like Black Sabbath slow breakdown kind of vibe.
I love it.
All the way out to the end. And yeah, it's epic as what?
As fuck. As fuck seems right.
As fuck.
The part with the solo, I love that part in particular. It's one of my favorite parts of the entire album. it has that sort of isolated, like, all right, you got the kind of clean bluesy guitar. You can hear the rhythm section, the bass is thumping, the drums sound crisp, and there's a nice little transition in there, and it takes this hard shift from like 70s all the way into the 80s. It gets bigger, more lush, and it kind of has that 80s like rock metal sound. I don't know, like something about that just like screams, man, where was this on like an early 80s slasher soundtrack? Because this would fit. Like this would be the club they all meet up and there's the band playing and then they all get murdered in the
right before the big
warehouse
climax.
next door.
Yeah, right before the big climax of the movie.
Now vocally this one is kind of interesting because it is all harsh vocals. Now a lot of this you would think would kind of lend itself to more like, you know, trad metal vocals, a little bit more clean, but actually the harsh vocals kind of work on this. He has a really distinct growl. I think the mix in his vocals is kind of different though versus the rest of the band. Like the rest of the band has that, again, that like 1981 production, like more everything organic. Is warm and organic. His vocals sound a little bit more processed and that is kind of like the modern touch to it. But I like the fact that for the most part, it really works all throughout as harsh vocals. Like it's not like the most, you know, like corpse grinder bellow or anything like that. It's nice kind of raspy growl. It's a nice clear delivery, and you can make out all the cheesy 80s tropes that are all throughout the lyrics that, as cheesy as they are, I love them.
The delicious cheese. To me, he's a zombified Alice Cooper.
Yep. I mean, the closest thing modern-wise I could compare this to, if you love Midnight, you'll love this band. Yes. That's kind of that level of cheese, like, ooh, it's Satan, but it's like fun Satan. This one wants to get a drink with you before he murders you.
Another epic song, but it didn't get terribly epic till the end, was The Widow's Blade. And of course, it is a song about the blade of maybe a widowmaker, you know, because if you get touched by the blade, you're a dead man. But regardless, it's a really good song up front. It's a little bit more just kind of driving. And then the back half gets it, and it gets really, really cool. This solo in this song in particular is probably the longest of the entire album, and it's really well done. And it's, I don't know if it was part structured, part improvised or whatever, but it just seemed to keep flowing and flowing and flowing, and it never got boring, which I thought was a really cool thing, because sometimes if you take a long solo, there's spots where it can get stagnant, but he did a good job of pacing it and combining different licks together, and I thought it was one of the tastiest leads on this album for sure.
I like how the bridge kind of took it for a walk too. Like it wasn't like the same, you know, backing section there.
Yes.
They actually had some interesting dynamics in that section, and the lead kind of just, you know, danced around it. And he got flat out shreddy in spots. Most of the leads in here are, well, excellent, first off.
Yeah, they're very, very good, but they're more
straightforward.
They're more straightforward blues rock kind of riffs, right? But towards the end, you can hear he's putting some 16th notes together and picking up the RPMs a little bit, but only when it was appropriate, and it sounded really good.
And that's the thing. I like everything in their music, but it's done to serve the song. Nothing screams like showboating. It is just about solid songwriting with, you know, maybe derivative dynamics, but God, they're good for a reason. It's why we keep coming back to them, and they completely understand that. And they even threw a nice little nod to the old school with a nice little cover of Sign of the Wolf, originally done by Pentagram. And I thought this was interesting in particular because you mostly hear doom and stoner bands cover Pentagram, as they should. It's Pentagram. But this is kind of like a heavy metal, almost kind of thrashy take on it, and I kind of really dug it.
I thought it was done really, really well.
Yeah.
They put their own spin on it.
And, I mean, you know, I like hearing guys make a cover of their own, and it has just such a fun feel to it. And generally, I don't associate Pentagram with, like, a fiercely upbeat feel. It's like, no, we want things doomy, but you kind of still have those doomy riffs in there. I mean, it's still theirs, but I don't know, it feels different, and I don't know, I just kind of like the shot in the arm that they gave it. As for any negatives on here, the only thing I could come across that kind of screamed a negative was on Mystifier, White Knight City. This is the only song where I'd say clean vocals would have worked better than the harsh vocals. The chorus in particular has such a big melodic hook on it, and the vocals really don't follow the melodic hook. It's still kind of that, you know, throaty, dry, raspy bellow, and I don't know, like maybe just like a little bit more inflection in the voice probably would have made that chorus like really just jump out there. But it kind of doesn't, and that was the only moment on here where I thought the vocals kind of didn't fit. The rest of the time, This is a spot-on awesome mix of all those elements: black metal, heavy metal, speed metal, thrash. It all works together in this nice little cheesy, evil, homogenized pool of, you know, that bright red fake blood you saw in the early horror movies, not the better looking stuff now.
No.
It works.
The corn syrup
Yep.
shit.
It flat out works. And I gotta give this 4.5 stars. This is just a banger. I wasn't necessarily shocked because I had their 2 previous albums. I really like those. This one is a little bit more different. This one leans more towards the heavy metal side, and you guys got me in my nostalgic feels. Like, you really did. It really reminded me like the first time, like, sitting back and listening to classic Priest albums and classic Maiden albums, and maybe just sprinkle in some Dark Throne for flavor. But, oh, dude, good stuff, man. It just riffs and melodies that are going to get stuck in your head. Go out and get this thing. Jam it, take the T-tops off the Camaro, and just drive around and terrorize the whole neighborhood. It'll be fun.
I'm so glad you went 4.5, because halfway through this album, I had a strong feeling what the rating would be if it continued on this trajectory, and it's 4.5 for me too, all day. This is a simple formula combining a very few ingredients, but very strong, good ingredients, and they were the right ingredients for my particular palate. The songs were never too long.
No.
They were never boring. Even on songs that had a more simplistic song structure, they did a great job of changing up certain riffs or adding things on to the chorus to throw the timing off so it wasn't so predictable. The leads were incredibly tasteful and very well done, and the tones were very reminiscent of some early Judas Priest, you know, the point of entry, British Steel kind of, you know, badass Judas Priest stuff, and it was high energy all throughout. Epic, high energy. It was the best of a lot of worlds, so it's a very well-deserved 4.5 for me.
So, if you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time.
Also, we are now on Patreon. Your favorite 5 fuckheads have managed to figure out the world of Patreon. I know, it's crazy, but we intend to grow this Patreon so that way we can continue to grow our community and continue to be able to bring you amazing content, plus be able to give back to the community as well, because we're so grateful for all of you, and use this as a way to buy prizes and stuff for giveaways, blah, blah, blah. So if that's something you would like to do, the link will be down below, and thank you.